The long sleepover scene. This is cut way down now. Tough to shoot in the first place. The younger one there. What the hell was his name? God, I sound like such an asshole right now. One thing that was kind of funny was he knew that he was playing a kid from a younger generation, so he brought like these classic collectible Star Wars toys, but there was really no way of like working them into the scene, so he just kind of had them in his sleeping bag, and he kept losing them, and like it kept taking up time from the shoot because they kept getting lost in his sleeping bag. It was kind of awful. And I was also like, I didn't grow up in the 70s.
Yeah, and this was another shooting this in the daylight, in the heat, putting the kids in the sleeping bags. It was one thing when we kind of subjected ourselves to the heat and locking ourselves inside on these hot days, but doing it with the kids was a little nerve-wracking. Their parents were all upstairs.
You can listen to the feature commentary and go to one of the blogs to know the story behind the scene itself. But yeah, the shooting of it, it's a cute little scene, but it kind of, we're trying to get on to seeing them as adults. And what I learned as I went on with the edit was that I don't want to place too much emphasis on them as children, or else people start to think this is going to be a movie about them as children, and kind of throws our narrative a little bit. But I did get my dad to record this, and I visit my dad every week for dinner, and I was like, hey, would you mind doing this recording for me? And he's like, yeah, of course. And I gave him the first line, which was like, I don't want you giggling. He does it great, just like he did when we were kids. And then I gave him the shit line, just the word shit was in it, and he was totally upset. But he nails it. And Kyle Gage especially was very sad to see this go, because he thought my dad was so funny. We always had hot dogs when we had sleepovers when I was a kid. I don't think Keith ever clogged my toilet, though. I just thought it'd be a funny thing to put in the movie. The long version of this scene. Kind of became apparent early on that it was taking a little while to introduce some of the main conflicts. And for a movie that doesn't really have, a lot of... It kind of meanders along, and that's sort of its structure. But for already just kind of moseying along, it kind of, I don't know, we needed to get to some of those main conflicts. And I think we get to them now in about 19 minutes, but everybody could kind of identify it takes a little too long to get places. So cutting this down and cutting down that sleepover scene ended up being kind of the obvious choices. Specifically this, because the only information we're getting here is introducing June as a character, which is important, and it's important to see what her mindset is, because she represents a certain kind of sexual outlook. But for a scene that's not about sex, it just needed to be chopped down a little.
And Rose is such a strong actress that I don't think we needed as much of her being annoying and forcing it down everyone's throat, because her little moments just land so well when they do, just about what kind of person she is, that... I mean, she just sold it herself. She didn't need as much time to do it with the character as maybe other people would have.
It's one of those easy things where it's like, I think I can cut this down and have the exact same scene.
Yeah.
Like, I think you can feel everything that you used to feel in less time, and that's kind of what I did. Just a few less of those awful moments, but of course it becomes hard because you're like, well, do I cut it down to only the bare essentials of like, getting us from point A to point B, or do I try to maintain the integrity of like, these long moments are painful and awkward and terrible? And I find, especially with Rose and Keith, the longer it goes on, the funnier for me. But I sent this out for notes and really listened to the notes, and everybody was like, yeah, that scene just runs. So I think I pulled back like 2 minutes out of it.
Yeah. But it doesn't feel that way. It's still really great and funny and interesting to watch them interact.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing with 2 minutes less.
But it's just because they're both so great, and they're both so great together. But I love anytime Keith is using his eyes and just looking sideways at her, or reading the comic. Anything he's doing is great.
I remember I made that comic. I just needed some shitty webcomic that represented the sort of comedy that we were making fun of.
And Keith was like, well, it is kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, him and one of my coworkers, I sent to them, and they were like, it's kind of funny. And I'm like, there's not even a joke there. There's just words. They're like, yeah, but no, like, the girl in it's annoying, and I'm like, oh my god, I hate you guys.
You have career options. You can write webcomics
Apparently.
in your next life.
Yeah, apparently so can anyone. That was always going to be a special line for me. CD tray. It kept popping out because they were encoding something on that machine, and there was no way to get it to retract. The DPs were delighted. They thought it'd be an Easter egg. How cute. It's just frustrating. I see a boom mic in the bottom. Bye.
Oh, wow.
This scene was right on the chopping block, but it survived. It's still in the movie. It wasn't in the original script. Then I wrote it in because I felt I needed it. Then I shot it and was like, wow, Ben is on the phone like the whole movie. This is bad. And I'd gotten that note before, but I kind of determined it was important. So there's kind of a big middle section of banter that I cut out, and that's what you're seeing here. I think it's almost like 40 seconds. But keeping it was kind of important to Matt's character.
Yeah, I fought for this little scene too. I thought it was important to bring this character in and have him friendly with everyone in the circle. And
well, otherwise, the first time that you introduced this conflict is him walking in at looking at the chat.
yeah, that's so late.
So I love everything about this fake, ridiculous, absurd play, but I'm probably the only one. And so it cut way down.
No, it's very funny, but it's similar to the music class deleted scene where some people, if this isn't your life, if you haven't seen a lot of bad standard plays or aren't really in this world, it's just not as funny to watch it go on and on.
But everybody laughed at Alan, so I tried to keep as much of Alan in as possible. I think every time he talks is still in there, despite having cut down like a minute and a half of this play. So you get like 3 or 4 lines of the play and then mostly Alan. That's what's in the movie now. I remember Maya was real pissy because some of this dialogue right here was supposed to be musical, but I hadn't worked out in advance what the melody was going to be. So John, being a score writer, was trying to help them through that. And she was pissed because she was like, no, we need actual accompaniment. John's unicorn line. In every movie we've made, John gets a unicorn line. Something he tries to tell some kind of weird joke, absurdist joke about a unicorn. And I worked it in here, and then I cut John from the movie. But I moved that line, just the audio, to another section of the movie, just to get it in there. Because it's more important than the narrative itself, apparently. Holy moly, this is a long version of this scene. It was... I wrote the script in Final Draft, and John was just doing some like quick reports on it when we were doing the script breakdown. He was like, well, the gym scene is clearly the longest. And it totally is. And a lot of the dialogue was just kind of redundant. I think it was long because I was trying to get the naturalism down so they weren't just cutting to the chase, and that it would kind of come about more organically. But I just found the opportunities cut. This was just sort of the first pass at it, and you get to see all the little things we tried first.
Yeah, there were some obvious things. I think you can talk more about it, but that you kind of cut out and got cut out on the first pass, like the older woman and things like that. And then as you kept cutting and cutting, it came down to, okay, there's a question of cutting jokes and dialogue, and it gets hard after a while when you're trying to cut down such a long scene and wondering how short you can go, because we started to lose bits of character, and I just remember this going through a lot of revision.
It's like cutting your fingernail or toenail or something. It's like you file it down and then you go a little too far and you see blood, and then you like need to grow it back a little bit and get it just right. But the old lady was kind of an obvious cut.
Yeah, the old woman whose arm has yet to move in this scene will eventually deliver some slow dialogue.
See, it was never supposed to be. She was never supposed to be on display in the scene the way she is. It's just that there's supposed to be just an extra that throws in this little line and then on with the scene. But I remember in the script I wanted to have you on one of those giant revolving stair machines.
Yeah.
But this place didn't have it, so we just made do.
I'm sure that would have been miserable for audio and the logistics of shooting anyway.
Yeah, it could have either been really funny or it could have really just fucked with the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, this government work stuff. We cut all this out. It was supposed to be, Jess perpetuating the lie that she started in the nursing home scene, but it wasn't really necessary. Anything for time at this point was kind of what I was going for. She's talking about Bill and her getting married. She's going to talk about that later, so you can nix that. I remember the first time I showed a cut of this to Tom Kingdon, one of my professors. And he sat there smiling as he watched it, so I was like, oh, he's liking it. And then it comes to the end, and he turns to me, like he's going to have like some constructive things to say. And he goes, this scene is a big problem. It goes very, very long. It is true. Rose sat Indian style on that thing because she didn't know how to work it. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, yes, yes. Cut to it. I think it works now. I think now it's like 3 minutes. This was, I want to say, I can check right now, can't I? This is a nearly 5-minute version of this.
Yeah, I think now it's great. I think this time, in this way, it just, there's hammering the same point over and over again, which happens in real life, but just doesn't happen in film.
Well, I think it's kind of like the first June scene, where it's supposed to be the character getting, hammered over the head with the same idea, and they're unrelenting. They're not listening to the fact to what she's saying, and you can see that through the repetition. But in the process, you make a repetitive scene. We didn't need the specifics of water and Oreos here.
Delicious.
Yep.
Oh, that's all you. I didn't write it.
I heard we had a big old fight. Not you and me, but me and the DPs. I can't remember why. It was just like how we were going to cover this.
Yeah.
We couldn't figure it out. I think it was that white wall was just giving us trouble, and we just kind of powered through and made it not great.
Well, we did a great job of avoiding white walls throughout the entire film.
So yeah, it was frustrating to do that. And that's where it cuts now, but it used to be there. The long version of the cafeteria scene. I don't think this has this isn't quite like the gym scene, which had like an extra 2 minutes that I cut out. But I had a number of, and it's starting to look like anytime there's June, I had her kind of always hammering the same points and had to kind of whittle those down a bit. But this is our first day of shooting as it was. But it was okay. It was kind of an encouraging first day.
This is like first day, first scene, right?
What do you mean?
Wasn't this like the first thing that was shot on the first day?
Yeah. It's like the first few shots you're looking at on the production. We had very cold feet.
Some of the things I know that are coming up that were cut were just kind of logistically, like you had planned to have. There was lines about getting ice cream, but there was no ice cream.
Just stupid shit.
Machine there, and like weird things that I think you just don't think are going to be a problem in writing. And then it turns out, there's no soft serve machine. We have to get rid of all of these things.
I mean, I'm always perfectly happy to just cut those little details that don't matter. Not get hung up on it. Their lunches are pitiful, though. I ran down the street and got them like dollar menu stuff from McDonald's, and I was like, here, there's lunch. And only a few people have commented, but people are like, what the fuck are they eating?
Yeah, 2 of them are eating like fruit and yogurt dishes, and then there's like a breakfast burrito or something.
It was like the morning shift at the cafeteria, so people were like clanging plates and dishes and stuff, getting everything ready while it was totally empty in there.
But this was another really great location too, right? Weren't they like, do you need coffee? Do you need us to...
Yeah, once we were in, it was definitely tough though to
get in.
To get in the first place, because they actually, being a school, they actually wanted a certificate of insurance and some of the stuff that Emerson can provide me, but it takes some processing time, and I just don't plan that far in advance.
It's awful when we have the locations that know what to ask for. It's so much better when
it's
they
true.
don't.
I want the... Yeah. But,
You just had a free extra there in the back. Just walking.
Yeah, I think that's the only, like, filling in the whole scene.
Hey, we got that in the gym. We had, like, a free extra in the gym at one point.
Yeah, I mean, I could get a whole slew of cafeterias. It's more of, the reason I wanted the Suffolk one was because it was just up the street from Emerson, and I wanted to make sure to get this scene in the same shoot as all the Office stuff. I like to make sure we can kind of, I really wanted to do all of all this kind of Office stuff in the same day, so this is the only thing that deviated from the Office, so I wanted to get it in the same vicinity.
But it looks kind of great aesthetically. We did
It sort of matches.
I think Dan and you guys did a lot of really interesting things with color in a lot of different places, kind of accidentally, like shooting in Dan's apartment for Brendan's apartment, and just some of the colors.
It's
are nice.
I didn't really feel the length in the scene until I watched it with the rest of the movie. That was the first time it was like, ooh, that cafeteria scene doesn't move at the same pace. And so, watching rough cuts of the whole movie become really important. Not much to say here. I guess I'm just doing commentary for commentary's sake. This is just another one of those examples where it was like, let's minimize Ben on the phone quite so often, even though he's still there, so it doesn't really solve the problem. But there's kind of a midsection where he tells him you see him every fucking day. I got rid of all that just for time. I didn't really have a problem with it, though. I kind of like the idea of Matt giving Neil a hard time, that they have, even though they're a little bit more courteous because they're not friends directly, they're kind of friends through Matt. Matt's, or friends through Dan, rather. Matt's still been around long enough that he's comfortable dicking on him like everybody else.
Well, I think a lot of times in shows and movies, there's too much of when you have a couple involved, it's like, well, these are her friends, and these are his friends, or, these are the individual's friends. And this is a lot more realistic of kind of the friendships that come into being just from spending time together.
This is just like the old lady in the gym. It's just like one of those things. There's supposed to be a quick little joke about somebody walking by, and it kind of, it took too much attention away from the scene, so it just got cut. That and Brendan is clearly in the shot.
Oh, not Brendan, right? Oh, is that the actor's name is Brendan?
The character's name. No, I'm sorry, not Brendan. The other boyfriend, Rosacea. The actor who played the cop was so bad that anything with him had to go, so HJ had to go. But I love HJ. Who calls it an HJ? Nobody.
This terrible mom.
But she was great and very, very tolerant, and they were just awesome.